And this is our second live stream, and this time we have a an outline of the show. See, told you the show was going to get better, and we're gonna slowly creep along and make this a better show as we go. It'll only improve from here. The show is gonna be better than the last one, the first one, you know, and we'll keep progressing with it. So we actually have a main topic, and the main topic for this segment is going to be: are you playing it too safe with your money? So I know this is a scare money doesn't make any money type deal, and we know that's true. We know that's true. And if you have a savings, which I think you should first start off with, is having a savings to even be able to have money to invest. But once you have a savings and you have everything taken care of, your debts and all those things, you don't want to play it too safe. Like you want to take your money and you want to invest it in probably low risk assets, things that are going to bring you money back. I know I've said multifamily on here a couple of times. I've said even your house. Now, there's always this argument that houses aren't houses were how they put it. Houses aren't valuable, or houses aren't an asset, or okay, houses are always an asset. I don't care what anybody says. Whether you live in it or you don't live in it, it's an asset. You know why? Because you can buy it and then you can hold it. And if you have any issues or any money problems and you haven't gone crazy on the house, you can sell it and get your money for it. So you can always sell something and get your money for it. I think the low asset things are like probably that's not an asset, which I've had people try and convince me this that a purse is an asset. Oh, this is a purse; it'll last long. And I'm like, it's that's not an asset. A Louis Vuitton purse is not an asset. It's something you buy and it's perspective, and you think it's worth that much. But even though at the end of the day, something is worth what people are willing to pay for it. That's true. But a house, everybody needs a place to live. Period. So you're gonna need a house. You're gonna need a place to stay. You're gonna need a place to take your family. You're gonna need a place to live. A house is always an asset. Whether they say, well, it's got to put money in your pocket to be an asset. Well, it's putting money in your pocket. It's just not realized income. But trust me, houses go up in value, and it's not necessarily the house going up in value. It's the dollar coming down in value. But still, that house holds its value, and that tells you that you can hold money in real estate. Just depending on where you are, don't expect it to shoot up exponentially high as the sky. Some places it does, some places it doesn't. But play it. You don't want to play it too safe when it comes to money, and that's investing in things like a savings, which pays you 0.09%. Okay, what you want to invest in, and which is a safe investment, and probably one of the safest investment I made as far as just putting cash anywhere, are I bonds. Now, what are I bonds? I bonds are with the Treasury. Now, it's very easy. Go to treasury.com. I forgot exactly what it is, and maybe I'll put the link in the bio. And you can just take a certain amount of money and put in an I bond. Probably, I think $10,000 is the max. I maxed mine out at 10,000. And what happens is you sit in the I bond and you get 5% or 4%, or depending on what it is at the time. And it's guaranteed. You just got to keep the money in there for a certain amount of time. I think 5 years. And if you take it out after 5 years, you lose some percentage. But still, it's still more than putting it in a bank. And actually, what the bank does is they take your savings and they put your savings in an I bond. That's right. They take the money that you put in your savings account and they go and they put the money in the I bond themselves. So they've made it kind of difficult for you to invest in I bonds in some cases. You got to go get stamped here, and there's always some games to play, but you can figure it out. Go put at least 5,000, and I think it's to 5,000 to 10. I can't remember the max exactly, but there's a max amount you can put in there, and you'll get your 4 to 5%. I don't know what the percentage is now, but exponentially better than putting it in a savings account as far as an I bond. Check that out, I bonds. Um, Next thing, so safe investments versus risky investments. Now, what's a risky investment? Now, a risky investment to me and it's kind of weird because I'm saying this because I made good money off of a somewhat risky investment, is going to be cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is so volatile. It just up and down. One day's up here and next day's down here. I've seen people lose everything and then get it all right back and lose it again. It's so volatile as far as what it does. And Bitcoin is just if you got into Bitcoin on the ground floor and just never sold, then you're good to go. That's different. That's different. But if you're jumping into Bitcoin now, and one day it's at 60,000 and next day it's at 100,000 and back down to 60,000, that's an emotional roller coaster. Those are high risk. Now, I did invest in Dogecoin, and I invested early when I didn't even know what it was. And that mind frame of investing like that came from a book called The Intelligent Investor, and it was by Warren Buffett and I think Ingram Graham or something like that. And I read that book, and the concept I got out of that book that made me invest in things like Dogecoin was this concept of going around and okay, so let me explain it this way. Say you're a cigarette smoker. You're a cigarette smoker, but you don't have any money for cigarettes. So there's an area outside where everybody smokes cigarettes, and then they don't actually throw it in the trash. They throw their butts on the ground. The cigarette butts or whatever it is. I don't smoke, but this is just explaining the concept. So instead of going out and buying cigarettes or something like that, you just go around and this is terror. Don't do this. You pick the cigarette butts off the ground and you take a puff. And you just go around and you puff all the. Now, this is the concept for investing. You puff all the little cigarettes, and you're getting your cigarette hit or your cigarette high, or whatever it is people get when they smoke cigarettes, off of all these puffs. And yeah, it's a little roach of a cigarette, but you're getting something out of it everywhere. So you're getting some value, but guess what? It didn't cost you anything, even though you might catch something on your mouth, from doing that. That ignore that. The whole concept is that you're doing something and it's not costing you much. So it's very low risk and it's a small chance you'll get anything out of it, but you're getting something for nothing. And that was the concept when I first invested in Dogecoin. I saw Dogecoin on Robinhood and it was like 0.003 something. And I'm like, okay. And it was like four at the time, it was only like four cryptos up there. And I was the cheapest one. And I'm like, okay. I took $300 and I put it in there. I'm like, okay, this is, and I thought about that. I'm like, okay, this is $300. I can lose $300. This is not a big risk. But I put $300 in here. We'll see what happens. And I completely forgot about it. Completely forgot about it. Then this gaming thing happened to where, people were investing in game. I forgot exactly what it was, but crypto shot up. And a lot of other cryptos, gaming or whatever, shot up. And then I went and I looked at it and I looked at mine, and not only mine had like quadrupled. It went from like $300 to what? I can't remember the exact number, but like what 1,500 or something crazy like that. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So then I talked to my friends and they were like, you should take it out. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking it out. It's $300 I put in there. I'm not taking that out. I'm just gonna leave it in there. What's the big deal? So I left it in there, and then I put another couple $100 in there, and I looked at it again like a couple months later, and it was 6,000. Now I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? So then I come back, it's 6,000. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was starting to go crazy or whatever. And I said, I'm gonna leave it in there. And then I think Elon Musk got involved like a couple months later. He got involved with it, and that's when it just shot up. I'm not gonna say how much it shot up, but it shot up to life changing money, like down payment on a house money. I'll never forget that. And I was like, I remember looking at that and be like, okay, I think I invested like probably 1,500 at the most at that point, and that was just like, wow, so much. and it 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 was a big it was a big risk, but and a big reward. But I'm not gonna even say it was a big risk. It didn't cost me anything. It cost me like $1,500, and I only initially invested the rest because I had already made money off of the $300. So that's the concept of taking a big risk with a little bit of money and going around taking little puffs of cigarettes. It don't cost you anything, and you get something out of it. So that's that concept. Okay, so that's a real life example what happened. So, a surprisingly safe strategy that actually is risky. That is what's the definition of a safe strategy that's actually risky. So, it is risky because it is cryptocurrency, but it's safe because you put $300 in and you got, you know, an absorbent amount of money out of it. And it was just crazy, like life changing money. I'm not going to say how much. Um, so, why do people default to safety financial choices? Okay, a lot of people default to safety financial choices because they're not risk takers. And risk takers are typically in that mindset of they're happy with comfort, and that's fine. Be happy with comfort, and sometimes that's just better for people. Just the slow growth, the guaranteed thing, and even though nothing is guaranteed, there's always some risk to something. Sometimes it's better to take something that's not as risky. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think you should always be somewhat not as risky and then somewhat more risky. It depends on what stage you are in life and depends on your age. I think if like me, like I went through a divorce, I had a certain amount of money, I went through a divorce, I took a huge loss. So now I'm like, okay, I have to be more risky now. Even though I played it safe and it was a little bit of risk, I said I was about 30% risk, 70% safe. And I did a pretty well financially and got money and savings and all that stuff. But after going to the divorce, for 3.5 years, that sucked all the money out of me. Now that I'm coming back and I'm recovering, I have to be about 70% risky and 30% safe. That's just the route you got to take. You got to depend. That depends on your situation. What's your situation? Where you at? To where that would make sense for you. So risk risky versus safe is going to depend on where you are in life. If you've been safe your whole life and you've got $1 million in the bank and you live below your means, you're fine. There's no point to being super risky and all this stuff. If you're happy with your lifestyle, stick with that. Stay safe. There's no point in going being unsafe. Okay. So keeping too much cash in savings, um, I don't agree with that. Well, let me say this. Reverse that. I do agree with that. I think a certain amount of money should be in savings for emergency. The rest of it should be in a trade account or maybe some I bonds or maybe some hedge funds or something like that. Something that's really safe but brings you back something more than a savings account was. Because a savings account actually isn't that safe. If you have over, I think it is $250,000 in one savings account, your insurance is only covered for up to that amount. So if you have, say $500,000 in a savings account, the insurance on it is only 200,000. If something goes crazy with the system and the bank gets wiped out and it goes bankrupt, you're only covered up to $200,000. So you're going to lose $300,000 on that. That's that's a huge risk, and that's when it becomes more risky. So once you hit $200,000 in a savings account, there's no point in having the money in there like that. You take that 300,000 and you either open another savings account if you want to be safe, or you take that and you put it into a hedge fund or something that's going to bring you some money back. Uh, uh, Money market fund. You got it depends on what you put it in. A CD, whatever it is, put it in something to where if there's insurance on it and it's low interest, make sure that insurance covers the full amount that you put in there. So don't put a dollar over what you're going to put in there. And in some cases, people don't even use savings accounts at all. They just use savings account to move money there, and then they move it into an investment account, or they move it into something else. Like I know people that just would never put their money in a savings account because it doesn't make any sense. So it's like, what am I doing? I'm making 0.0055 when I could be making 2% over here or 5% over here. No point. So next, we're going to talk about avoiding investing altogether. Now, some of you that you feels like it's safe for you, avoid investing altogether. Who wants to sit there and go through numbers and all this stuff? And I think that's something that when you do invest, I think it's something where you need to enjoy that. One thing I took from Warren Buffett, never invest in something you don't understand. That's true. And I went against that when I invested in Dogecoin because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. That's kind of a little break a rule thing, because it's like, what is Dogecoin? I don't even know what this is. But you know what? I'm gonna put $300 there. I think when you say invest, I mean seriously invest. If you're just gonna throw some money in something and you don't care about losing it, that's something else. But going and putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in something, I think that's really putting investing in. Throwing $300 into an account ain't really. That's not really an investment. That's just like playing around, trying to see what's gonna happen. But when you really invest, when you really wholeheartedly go in and put your money into something, you need to understand it. Understand what you're investing in. Or avoid investing altogether if you want. So your money is basically on a treadmill. So that means you want to make your money work for you while you're asleep. That's the only way to make a lot of money. That's the only way to do well financially. That's the only way to keep up with inflation. Because if you keep your money in a savings account, you're losing money every year. That's just how it works. You're gonna lose money every single year. So your money's in an investment account. Um, while you're investing in this in the investment account, you're gonna make a certain percentage versus your money in a savings account. You know exactly what you're gonna make, which is probably gonna be nothing, $13. Like I put, say this, I put $1,000 into what was it that I put it in? I put $1,000 into I forgot what it was, and probably better I don't say it because what I'm telling you, don't listen to me. This is just commentary, okay? It's up to you guys to invest on your own. This is not advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I need to start saying that in the beginning. I'm going to start saying that in the beginning. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I invest on my own. This is all up to you, okay? So, like I said, um, uh, I invested in something where I put $1,000 in it. And when I put that $1,000 in it, I left it there for what, a couple days, and in a couple days it made $50. So I looked at it again, and it was $50 higher. So think about if I took that $1,000 and I put it in a savings account. You know how long it would take to make $50 off of $1,000 in a savings account. You're not gonna. It's gonna be years to do that. So that's why a savings account doesn't make any sense. Now I could have lost that $50. That's the risk. That $1,000, I could have lost $50 on that. And there are some accounts where I've lost $50, I've lost $100, I've lost $1,000 on some investments. That's just what's going on there. So understand the risk versus reward. From my experience, investing in something safe will always bring you back some more than a savings account. Okay. Inflation and opportunity costs. That again goes back to what? Opportunity costs. Savings account versus an investment account. You're going to always do better putting money into an investment account than a savings account. I don't care what anybody says. You're going to do better in an investment account if you're putting money out there in an I bond. If you're not going to touch your money, if you don't need it. Now, if you need your money, don't do that. Don't put your money in an I bond or a CD or something like that if you need it. If you got debt and all that stuff. First thing you need to do off the bat is pay your debt off. Okay, you don't. You're not gonna make any money putting money in savings and putting money in investment accounts. You know, if you got all this debt accumulating, because that debt is what, anywhere from 15 to 29% annually, and it's compounding. That is crazy. You're compounding, so that means the interest they make that you have to pay, they put that back on, and then they charge interest on top of that money of that interest spot. That's crazy. Get rid of all your credit card debt. That's insane. Take out another loan and get another to pay off a credit card debt and cut those credit cards up. Credit cards are for risk. Like if you're going to buy something online and it's a shady site or something like that, that's where you take the risk at. That's what a credit card is meant for. It's meant for risk. So if you buy something and it doesn't work out, you call the credit card company, say, "Hey, I got screwed over on this. Take this off," and then they take it off, and then you get your money back. That's why they charge so much interest. So that's why they're allowed to charge so much interest, because you're taking the risk. Okay, we already did that. Investing in index funds. That's easy. Just put your account, invest $200. There's index funds all over the place. I'm not going to tell you which ones. There's ones that are safer than others. Depends on how you want to do. And you know what? That's probably the best route to go if you're just a regular investor and you don't want to look at anything, you don't want to do anything. Take your account, put it on auto trade, $500 to $1,000 a month. Boom, switch that. It automatically goes into that safe account. And trust me, you'll make more money off of that than anything. Than sitting here thinking you're a genius trying to switch and trade. Like, oh, look at this. Boom, boom, boom. Like, oh, I made $1,000 here, but I lost 500 here. And other, like doing all that. The best way to invest is not to listen to me, not to listen to anybody. $1,000 safe, put it into a mid to risky account, put it in there. You know, the fortune, the well, I'm not gonna tell you what stock, but just put it into like an index fund. Ask the guy, your advisor, hey, which one's risky, which one's not risky, which one's mid risky. They'll tell you, put it in there. You'll make more money off of that than anything over time. Over time. Okay. Starting a side hustle. Now, I believe in this. I believe in this. Um, right now, I had a settlement you have to pay out, and you got to take care of stuff, and like you go through a divorce or something like that. A side hustle is always important. I think it's you work your regular job, get out, then you work your side job or your side hustle, or you start a side business or something like that, or you find some way to make some extra money. Especially if you've got any debts, if you got any things you got to pay off, if you want to pay your house off early, if you want to pay this off early. Like I believe in 15-year mortgages. That's get a 15-year mortgage if it's on your personal house. If it's on an investment property, which I believe 100% multifamily is the way to go if you're going to go investment properties, multifamily, because somebody will always need a place to live. Go to a multifamily, get a multifamily property, bring in the monthly income, hire whoever to manage it. That's 5%. Get the best area you can get for your money, bring that money in, pay all that stuff. That money can bring in something where it's extra money on top. Use that money to actually pay all your debts off, or you can use that money to pay your mortgage. So, my advice, and this is kind of jumping ahead, my advice, or the best way to invest, is to actually buy a multifamily unit in a good area, because you can mess up with multifamily if you don't know what you're doing. And in fact, you might want to invest with somebody that knows what they're doing first so you can learn on your first one. But get a multifamily unit, fill it up. The extra money you make from that, you can use that extra money and pay for your luxuries, or pay for your car notes if you have a car note, or if you want to buy another house based off of the apartment units you've bought, say you buy 5 apartment units and you make a positive income off of those apartment units after paying all the costs, paying everything total off of all five, you make around $3,000, $4,000. Let's say 4,000. So use that 4,000 you make to pay the mortgage of your house. So buy the multifamily units first, then go buy the house. You bought the multi units family first, go buy your house, and use that money to pay your mortgage. Now you're living for free. That's the best way to do it. That's advice. Advice. Now you can take it, you can leave it, get to multi units, get all that money that you make off the multi units, then buy your personal home and use that to pay for your personal home. Then you don't got to worry about waking up every day. I gotta run to work. You don't have to worry about that. You got your renters paying that, and you might have a bad renter here or there, but that goes back to getting a place in a desirable area. You'll always have somebody willing to rent that place. If you live in a desirable area with multi units, you'll always have a renter. You'll always have good renters because you want good renters. You'll always have access to good renters. And I know there's Section 8. You can buy up Section 8, but oh no, that's risky too because now you got bad renters. But you got the city paying for it. But what turns around? What happens when the city doesn't want to pay for it anymore? You get somebody in office that says, we're no longer going to give out Section 8. Not that like anything can happen with that. So my advice is always go get a great area that everybody wants to live for multi-use. And I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. So waiting too long to invest, you can wait too long to invest and you get older, or you can lose stuff and have to do it. That goes back to the longer you've waited to invest, the more riskier you have to be. Like me, I'm getting my daughter started early. I got an investment fund for her. We got an investment. Her college is going to be taken care of. Everything's going to be taken care of for her. We're going to make sure her everything. I got an investment in my life insurance. I pay whatever, a couple $100 a month to my life insurance, but that's also an investment, whole and whatever it is, life insurance. I don't know too much about life insurance, but I pay that money and that's going to go to my daughter later on, or it's going to go where I can come later on and pull that money out. I've had that for years. It just automatically comes out of my account. I don't even know how much it is. But again, though the best investments are the ones you really don't have to pay too much uh, attention to. They just go on their own. So who cares? So that's there. Um, but like I said, you got to be more risky. So if you don't have much money now, you got to be more risky, basically. So that goes back to what we said earlier. Okay, so and the people who took smart risk early. If you're younger, 18, get investing early. Get into investing early. Safe investing. If you're young, just do safe investments. You don't need to do a bunch of craziness. And I know it looks good to be Bitcoin rich, but that's just the little stuff you guys are seeing. Most people don't get to that level. And you can do it and throw a little bit here if it's not too much. But just do your safe risk, do your safe investing first. Then what you got left over to play with, then you go play with that stuff. Go play with it. Say, of course, you want to fill up your IRA, and your Roth IRA. Max that out first. Your match 401k, max that out first. Max all this stuff out first. Get that done first. Then you go play with your money if you want to play around and do some risky stuff. And then do it with money you don't mind losing, because you're basically going to casino at that point. Oh yeah, don't and stay off these betting apps because you're gonna lose everything if you do it that. Too many betting apps now. I disagree with that. They shouldn't allow that even in here. Okay. So assessing yourself as far as your age, your income, your stability, and your goals. So always have a budget goal. And I'm gonna leave this for next time, for tomorrow. You want to always have a budget goal. Things you want to invest. As far as budgeting. And we'll talk about budgeting next time because we are just about out of time. We've only got a couple seconds left. Okay. And tone and style tips. Okay. So reallocate money. Playing it safe isn't always safe. Make sure you all invest well. Enjoy the rest of your day. You know, God bless you all. Till tomorrow.